right, here we go. Another podcast of the Home Education Foundation. Welcome to the HEF podcast. Sorry, I'm a little distracted today. Welcome to the HEF podcast. That's the podcast of the Home Education Foundation, the organization that was started by the beloved Brenda Dickinson. This music is way too loud, so I'm gonna have to lower it. I'm yelling over the top of it. And we're so grateful that she did. Back in the early 90s, just after securing a victory for home education rights in the state of Florida. Previously, if you wanted to, quote unquote, homeschool your kids, you had to enroll them in some sort of private school that allowed you to independently school them under their umbrella. And in the free state of Florida, in 1985, we arrived at the decision of the legislature to protect the rights of parents to educate their own children. And it was because of moms like Brenda and many others who came together and pushed for those rights, that they should be spelled out and protected, because that's how we protect rights. We should have them, but we also have to protect them. And that's what she started to do. And then she wanted to go back and live her life, except that every time she turned around, something kept happening. Oh, now her students needed transcripts, but they wouldn't take home education student transcripts. So we had to fight and get that in law. And now her students wanted to go to college, so we had to fight and get that put into law. And why shouldn't they have Bright Future scholarships and dual enrollment opportunities and the ability to play sports at the public schools that their taxpayer dollars fund? All of these things, many, many things. And she has been the voice of parents in the Capitol since that time, which is 40 years ago. And we're so thankful for her, and we're so thankful for all of the parents in the free state of Florida who support the work of the Home Education Foundation to continue to protect those rights. My name is Jason Crawford, and I'm the torchbearer, the new lobbyist, the new voice of parents in the Capitol, and the host of this podcast where we try to help parents understand and know all of the different things and changes that are happening. Legislative session is upon us. We're going to dive into some really good things, but we're also very thankful for all of the parents that support the work that we do. We're thankful to Arete, FPEA, Fisher Precious Metals, TBHC Group for being some of our top sponsors. We might be adding to this list, which is critical because the work that we do comes at a great cost, and we're still not completely funded, and we would like to be. So if you're interested or know someone who's interested in being a top sponsor, we do have information packets on what those look like, and we can supply those to you. If you're a parent and you're like, man, I'm not a top sponsor, I wish I could, but I'll do what I can, go to flhef.org/support and just check out some of the options that are there. $5 a month, $10 a month, low cost options, but it all adds up. Last check that I saw, the numbers were somewhere around 152,000 home education students in the state of Florida. Can you imagine if we just had a fraction of those donating at even our smallest tier on a monthly basis? Many people say they love the work that we do and they support us. But I have to say, the numbers on the back end don't quite reflect that. We appreciate the emotional support, but what keeps us going is that small sacrifice that you make to help keep us going. And we're very thankful to all of the parents and all of our top sponsors who do put themselves out there with us. And boy, oh boy, we're going to be in it this session. Hi, Brenda. Welcome back.
Thank you. And the numbers that you quoted are just those registered as home education students. You can add probably, 30,000 plus that are PEP students who have benefited from the work of us being able to carve out an option for parents who receive the scholarship dollars. So we're probably close, I'm guessing, to 200,000, because I know a few parents who have 4 children or 5 children who are on scholarship, and those numbers add to the 150. So honestly, if we could get $1 from 200,000 children,
it'd be game changing.
Can you imagine? Yeah, it would be totally game changing.
Maybe we could get more than me back here.
Well,
It's
it's
a
a
big
big
job.
job. And the reason that people didn't know the work that I was doing
Mhm.
all those years is because I couldn't do all the back end work that you're doing, plus doing what I'm doing, because the lobbying that we
Yeah.
do never stops. It's not 2 months of session, it is every day people calling, several people calling. They've got a problem. We're working with the districts, we're
Hmm.
trying to get things changed that would cause problems for parents who are trying to get bright future scholarships or name it. And guess who they call? They call us. Well, that means it's
Hmm.
taking up your time, my time in the past, to earn a living outside of answering questions. So the lobbying is not just 2 sessions, 2 months
Right.
out of the year when session is in. It's 6 months with committee meetings,
Yeah.
and then it's
It's
daily,
constant.
weekly. So if people appreciate having somebody to call who will join them and help work out the issues, because we together, and Jason is expanding the number of people that we know that can help at the legislative level, people that can help at the Department of Education. I mean, last week he had on the Commissioner of Education. So we've got people
Hmm.
on our team that are helping us work these things out. But we're the in between, because how many people out there who are home educating that run into a problem can pick up the phone or text the Commissioner of Education and get a problem solved? That's the value
Mm.
of having a lobbyist. And people just don't realize it until they need it. But you never know when you're going to need somebody in
Mm.
Jason's position as the lobbyist for the Home Education Foundation to help you with a problem that you encounter with your school district. So I encourage you. $5. Imagine, Jason, $5
Yeah.
times
That'd
two
be
hundred
wild. That'd be
thousand.
wild.
It would
It would. It
it would
would. It
blow
would
your
really
mind.
change. It would really completely change the game. There's so much that I do in terms of the Discord and communication and prepping bills, getting things to the blog, getting the blogs out. A lot of people think that Crystal does a lot of the heavy lifting behind the scenes, and she's helpful. Don't get me wrong. I'm not naysaying my wife, but I feel sometimes like an octopus with my hand in like many different parts and answering this phone and texting that person there, and in between workouts I get a call, like everything gets dropped the moment you get a call. And Brenda, you impressed this upon me when I first moved up to Tallahassee to work with you, and you were mentoring me, and I'm very appreciative of that. But you had talked about some of the sacrifices personally that you'd made that people would never know about. And over the winter break, um, those challenges come constantly. Over the winter break, we had our son. He was supposed to be born um, tomorrow, but they moved up his induction because of some complications that my wife was having. And so we had a Christmas baby, and then 5 days later, we're in the hospital again with complications postpartum, and we're just kind of been in and out and making this doctor's office meeting and those. And when I get calls, I had a meeting with a senator who called me and said, "Hey, I want your thoughts on this bill. I've been meaning to get to you. I've been busy. This has been happening, but I want your thoughts on this bill." And so I started to run down that conversation over the phone, and he said, "Why don't we do breakfast?" And I thought, "Okay, great." He goes, "When are you available?" My answer is whenever you need me to be. Like I will rearrange all schedules. I'll push meetings. I'll find a babysitter for my wife in the hospital. She's not a baby, but you know what I mean. Like it's one of these things where you start just juggling all of the things because it's bigger. It's bigger than me. It's bigger than us. We benefit from it, but it's for more than just self. It's for many, and understanding the weight of that mantle that you carried for so long, it's not lost on me. All of the things that you've done over the years, no one will ever know about. No one will ever know about. And when you make the dedication that they call and say, "Can you be up here in 10 minutes?" and the answer is yes, that there's so many things that you have to move and that go missing from your life, sacrifices that you have to make for that to be the case, but it pays off. That meeting with that senator went very well, very well. In fact, we had a time to connect beyond just the bill, which was great to get to know him better, and it was very interesting to pick his brain on some of the other issues that are going on that are not in the bills, and just to kind of understand what he's about, who he is, and where he thinks the ship overall is going. Talking in terms of like big school choice ideas, and then back to the granular level of our bill and the issues that we're working on, and the problems that the language currently created, and how to solve those delicately while preserving rights for everybody, not just us. We're not looking for special treatment for home education students. We're just looking for right treatment, the rights that parents should have because they are the parent, period. And that always having that front and center, even if it's inconvenient, even if the bill becomes something that's inconvenient for the bureaucracy, that it's right for the parents. That's just the way of it. And so it took a while to lay that out, but it's always impressed me whenever we first got together and you had told me about some of those moments where you had made those sacrifices. And I think it's critical for people. I'm not going to go into your details, but it's critical for people to be aware that that's a part of it, because $5 a month here or there isn't really game breaking. And now I don't even think that buys a cup of coffee in most places. So it's
Right.
according to the grand inflation of everything, it's actually kind of quite small, but it adds up. Many hands make light work. And if we could get parents to understand that, if you're not up here pounding the pavement and making the, relationships yourself and having those conversations and being instantly available and taking all calls, no matter how inconvenient, someone is. And that has a value. That has a value. Brenda, you've done it for so long. And I would like to not be alone doing it. But it's not something that scares me either. Like, this is a heavy load, and man, let's do it. Like, I'm not shy about that at all. I was in for a penny, in for a pound, even if that was all my costs. So I'm thankful, very, very, very thankful for all of the parents who support the work that we do, who believe in the freedoms and the needs and the responsibility that they have for their children, and that we're taking on to fight for those rights. They believe in both of those things, and we're very grateful to have you in our corners. Every time it feels like we've got a black eye, and then maybe we'll just cut me and put me back in. It's like an old Rocky reference. We love the fact that you douse us with water. We appreciate that greatly. Anywho.
I think people don't realize that you are making tremendous sacrifices to serve the position that you're serving for the people who want to educate their children and choose the method of educating their children, whether it's scholarship or private school. We even get in on private school issues and have over the years, because the issues and the way that they go often affect down the line home education. So if we don't get the private school rights and privileges right, then pretty soon it's going to come down on home education. So you're watching a lot of things, just as I did. And, when you're making these contacts with key legislators, and even ones that aren't keys that are going to vote on the bill, it takes so much time, which means that you can't do your previous marketing job, because you're marketing for home education and building the foundation and the support. And so, if people wanted to come and fight for their own rights, they'd have to come to Tallahassee. It would be at least 2 tanks of gas. So how much is that today? $100? Depends on what you drive, not to mention staying over in a hotel and all of the other things that go along with it. So when we say $5 a month, mercy, for the rights that you have in Florida,
Yeah.
it's the biggest bargain you will ever have. So please, I'm just saying it because I know the struggle and God did provide for me, but financially, it was a sacrifice. It was a ministry, and I did not get paid to do the work that I did, but I didn't have a family to support after a certain amount of time. My children didn't get to enjoy the labor, the work, the benefits of the labor that I put into it. As Jason said, something would come up. We couldn't get into public school. We couldn't get into private school. And it took a long time to make a pathway for that to happen. But it was important because a lot of people have problems, maybe financially, and they have to go back to work, or there's a death in the family and they have to put their children in a private school or a public school. And so those are things worth fighting for an individual family. And Jason made quite a sacrifice to get to Tallahassee. They kept saying, "Oh, well, we'll live in Crawfordville because it's cheaper." And I said, "Oh, no, you won't, because you may have to be at the Capitol."
It has happened, actually.
Right?
I had gotten that call as I was taking my suit off, and I had gotten home from being at the Capitol all day. One of the representatives calls me and says, "Hey, I have a meeting with staff, and can you get here in like 10 minutes?" And I'm throwing everything back on while I'm on the phone. Yes, I can. Absolutely, I can. So, yeah. And then because of where we do live, that was a possible answer. So that it's funny how so many small things add up. Yeah. I appreciate you saying all that, Brenda. It's so meaningful to me to see you, the legend, helping, echo that voice. We are watching many things, and I do kind of want to run into that. Let's get to the legislative session 2026. There are about, so far, maybe 15 bills so far that we have keen eyes on, not the least of which comes down to the Florida Tax Credit Scholarship Program bills or the Family Empowerment Scholarship Program bills. And there are several smaller bills that are also introduced that touch those things. And I'll talk in a minute about how some of that might work out. And Brenda, you can help with that because you have the historical perspective. And I don't want to act like I know it all. So I'm glad you're with me today. But there's about 15 bills. Individual education plans there are some bills that address those, IEPs. There are bills that address physical education standards. There's a bill that addresses extracurricular activities and a complete rewrite of 1006.15, which is the Brenda Dickinson Act. We're keenly watching that one. There is the tax credit scholarship bills. We've talked about those. There are some more generic education bills, and while they may not seem like they directly impact home education, anytime something in education is changed on a school or district level, it has the potential to impact home education families that interact with those entities for a class here or there, or for this program, or they're involved in extracurriculars. And so the way the school has to register their insurance or do this or do that actually impacts those students when they're on the campus for those activities and things like that. So there's so many things to watch and keep track of. Those are the bills that I have in my track folder, and then I've got about 8 more tabs open right now, combing through other bills and language. Some of them are short, some of them are very long, just to kind of see. Most of these bills will become inconsequential because they won't get referred, right, as things happen. So you've got bills that get proposed, but they don't then get referred to any of the committees to be heard, and those bills don't end up making it. So you can, as things progress, start to see certain bills fall off your radar, and then you narrow into the ones you're going to fight over. And those are, that's how we watch some of the bills that start with innocuous language that just seems like, who would even disagree with this? This seems like a great idea, then get amended. And an amendment from one bill that had the language that's on the subject matter because it's germane then just finds its way into this bill, and suddenly that bill doesn't become so friendly. So watching for all of those tiny movements and things like that is also a huge part of what we do.
Hey,
I'm
you
sorry.
just lost your audience.
I probably did. They're bored.
You're speaking inside the Beltway language. And most people have already tuned out.
That's true.
Most of the time, it's hard to talk about stuff in our positions because we are in the deep weeds of all of this. And oh my goodness, it's so important. Anyway, it just gives people, I'm not criticizing you because I know exactly where you're coming from, but it just gives people an idea of how complicated it is in what we're doing on their behalf. And so I think it's funny though, because people are like, what in the world are you talking about? It's like me and computer stuff. I don't speak the language. I have no idea what they're talking about. But let me just reiterate, it is very complicated. And Jason's on top of it. So you can be thankful for that.
I'll wrap that up then. And I'll just say there are maybe 20 plus bills, and I'm not done combing through everything. If you see something that is of alert to you, hop in our Discord and point it out. We're human and we use programs and stuff to help track a lot of these things, but there's a chance that we might, it's possible that we miss something. It's human, and it's not that I want to.
Like a couple of years ago, we had the child labor law, and I didn't realize that until we were well into the session. It was an issue that I had worked on with the Department of Labor and trying to get it changed that level, but it took a legislative change thanks to Senator Burgess, who realized that was a problem, that children who were homeschooled could work at different hours than those children that were in public or private school. And so he made the change so that now home educated students have the flexibility that we would love for them to have.
And we're still actually working on some of the fallout from those changes because not everyone is up to speed with those changes. And so you go to apply to work somewhere and they're like, oh, well, you can't, work here. We can't do this. And, educating and advocating for actually, here was the change, here was when, here's how. Those are, absolutely huge part of that. But sometimes it can come, what we're watching is not always just education stuff. It can be bills or somebody brings something to our attention and we're able to put eyes on it. So if you spot something that is important to you because it's happening in your area and one of your representatives or senators is working on it, and you think it's heavily impacting home education families, and we need to know, and it seems like we don't be bashful. Jump in our Discord and throw that out there. There is a chance we've seen it, and we may or may not be following it because it may or may not be referred, but we can help you understand that, and we can dive into it, or you can put it on our radar if we missed it. And so that's just very, very, very helpful way to interact with our community. If you don't know, flhef.org/Discord will take you to the Discord website page, and it'll explain what it is and how it works and how you can get on board with it. We have about over 500 families that are in there right now, and it grows almost daily. Almost every time we do one of these podcasts or something like that, it grows. We do have a legislative updates channel. I found an issue this past week where one of our new guys coming in, was a new dad, couldn't see that channel, and that bothered me because that's very important to us. So I had my nephew works with me a little bit here and there. He kind of volunteers when I ask him to, and he helps me tweak some of those behind the scene things. And I think we've got that solved. But if there's ever something that I'm talking about on here that you can't see, bring that up, and we can troubleshoot those things when I'm not meeting with legislators. and all the other things that we do.
How many hats are you wearing? Marketing, computer, what is technician, what all the different hats just to do this job?
It's just, there's a lot, but it's not, I feel bad laboriously putting too much attention on it because I don't want to draw too much attention to me, but there's a lot. There's a lot that goes into it. For me though, it's kind of like, it just has to be done though. That's just what has to be.
It does.
Especially in our technology age.
But when you're doing that, you're not holding that little new baby, and you're not working out with your kids, and you're not doing all the other things that you're having to give up to do this job. So my point in saying that is it would be great to bring your nephew on as part-time to handle all the computer stuff and the Discord and all of that. So we're not looking for, CEO salaries. We're just looking for enough income to be able to hire people to help Jason do the great job that he's doing now and give him a little more freedom from carrying the total responsibility.
That's true. That is a part of the vision and where we would like to have hands on deck to grab the sails and you steer and somebody make lunch.
Even committed volunteers are welcome.
Speaking of, our new intern, Brennan, has been hard at work chopping up videos and making little snippets. And I hope after today to be able to get to reviewing some of those and getting those up so that I can process those out. I've been working with him to help review some of the work, but it's just been so busy with everything that we've got going on with the baby and being in and out of the hospital, triaging what comes next is... that hasn't been high up on my list, though it should be, because it needs to be done. But that's life. He's doing a great job, though, and so you might see some of his new stuff kind of coming, and I am excited about that. Volunteers are always so important for the work that we do and helping keep things going. And a lot of people don't know how they could volunteer, and I'll say, just reach out. Just hop in the Discord. You can message me directly, or you can just hop in the general channel there and say, hey, I'd love to help. What can I do? We'll carry a conversation and we'll talk about what that looks like. And there's always something that needs to be done. And there's always something that needs to be done. And we're very grateful.
And for home educated kids that are bent in this direction, they are getting valuable experience that may help them decide a career future. And Jason is a great teacher and I just can't say enough about you. Obviously, people are hearing it today, but he was full-time in marketing. So he's going to be able to help any volunteer that seems interested in marketing to learn how to do many of the things that he does so easily right now. But having people come in and experience some of those things may help them determine a career.
Yeah, it's exposure to see whether you have a taste for it or not. It's nice when you think you like to make videos or do this or do that, and then you do all the tedious parts of it, and you go, nah, I thought it was different.
But then some people are going to love it, so kind of help weed things out.
He's an excellent intern. And I look forward to continuing to have him help us out and exploring ways to work together on even more stuff. So this wasn't a love fest. This wasn't on the plan for us to talk about today. I'm having trouble getting to our stuff. But speaking of content creators and content, social media content, that we've kind of wrapped up our legislative session for the things that we're watching. If you want to know the bills that were currently our high priority, we have those listed. There's a small handful of them in our Discord right now, the ones that we are kind of cherry picked out because they've been referred and they're going to start to be heard. And then there's a spider web of other bills that are attached to the big scholarship bill. So we can just assume all of those are all connected, even if I don't spell out which ones are which, any of them that address that. So we've got the master bills that are there, that they're going to jam things into, listed, and you can comment, you can ask questions, you can engage. all through there. You can follow up with what we're doing. Every time that something big happens or it gets referred to a committee and heard, we'll post an update and talk about what's happening so that you can know. And if you want to stay in the know, that's the best place to do it. So that wraps up. Legislative session is about to begin, or it is begin today officially. So shifting gears from that, something kind of came across my feed because I do a lot of research. I try to keep up with what's happening, not just in our state, but on a local level, because homeschooling isn't, it's not school, right? And education is a word kind of like marketing, where it's used for everything, so much so that it becomes difficult to define, right? Like, well, what is or what isn't education? If everything can be education, and what is marketing? If everything is marketing, what isn't marketing? So it's like, everything from buying pins to wearing shirts is marketing, but putting an ad out and messing around with data streams and cookies and all that stuff is also marketing. So which one is it? Education, school. And I think the real challenge that we're in right now is that it's really a question of culture. That it's a culture, a mindset. I don't even want to say the word lifestyle, because it's not about style. It's about the way of living, the path of living. Education home education is more of a cultural question than a policy and a trend question. And I've seen content creators recently who are blasting school choice. They're blasting these right-wing Republicans trying to destroy the education system, and school choice is awful and evil, and they just want poor kids to be poor and rich kids to be rich, which is why, all of this money is going to private schools, et cetera, et cetera. They ignore a lot of key facts, and that's beside the point. The point is parental rights and school choice are not the same thing. They're similar and they overlap, but we don't fight. The Home Education Foundation does not fight to protect school choice. We fight to protect parental rights in education. They're your children. They're not the state's children. They're not the government's children. They're not the good of the community's children. They're not society's children. They're yours. You gave birth to them. You had them. They're your responsibility, and it should be your right to raise them and teach them in the way that you see fit. That is what we protect. School choice is popular, and it's been popularized by many, but it's not the be-all, end-all of what we're focused on. And some people may come out against it and make it a right-wing or a left-wing issue, but for us, it's not. In fact, when Brenda started fighting for home education rights back in the day, she did so with a blue Democrat-led legislature, and it still came through, because when you get down to it and you stop sitting on one side of the aisle or the other, it's about parental rights. It really just comes down to the freedoms. Parental authority over your own children, period. In a system or out of a system. In a school or out of a school. It's not about school choice and which school or which way to school your kids. It's about the authority to teach them yourself, period. To curate that experience in the way that you see fit, to teach them character, standards, and measurements, and order the teaching and as you see fit. You are the parent. That's important. You're going to hear a lot of content creators talk about what they think about the money going this way or going that way, and what's happening and who's trying to control who. And they might be right, they might be wrong, but I'll tell you this. A lot of these things are far more nuanced. Not every state has the same laws. Not every state has the rights set up the same way. We have people from Venezuela and Colombia that were at the homeschool conference in South Florida attending and asking, how do we get rights and freedoms to educate our own children here like you do there? It is not about a left or a right issue, and it's not about school choice. It's about parental rights. The absolute parental authority to educate your children as you see fit. And that has to be key, whether you're in a scholarship program or not. It has to be a culture that you look at and adopt and see yourself as. It's an identity, is who you are. I am the parent. These are my children. That is how it has to be looked at. And does that make sense, Brenda? Beating a dead horse?
It does, definitely, because, you know, and it should be a right over multiple things, not just
Agreed.
education, but you should be able to decide when your children are into formal education, be it whatever methodology you use, whatever place you send them or keep them. What happens to their bodies? You know, do you give them shots or not? You know, what parents need to be the decider on these issues. And we have so long accepted the government knows best. Well, I believe Father knows best. You know, it's I think it is a culture, and we're trying to change it. I think the people that have pushed forward school choice have done so with those parents without the means to make choices. And so they're trying to create more parental choice, more authority over the kids. They're kind of along the same line as our thinking with parental rights. They're not making the choices for the parent, but giving them the opportunity to make those choices. And so, you know, there are going to be arguments on both sides because nobody likes change. And especially people that have been in control, or I might go so far as to say brainwashed into thinking that there's only one way, you know, for children to be educated, socialized, cared for. And in the past, there have been, you know, court cases that said the moment your child steps on the bus to go to school or on the school ground, they're no longer your children. That school makes that decision. I really had a problem with that philosophy. Thus, you know, we set out to put parents in charge of their children in the realm of education. So, yeah, I totally agree that even though we kind of overlap with school choice because it gives parents who can't afford a private school, which was the only other option besides public school when we started this movement 40 years ago. And now with the school choice, this new movement is helping parents make other choices. So I think even though personally I've had some qualms about it in the past because of various things, I think working together we have created a way in Florida, at least, for parents to have choices over their children and to make those critical decisions because parents know their children best. And sitting in a classroom of, even if it's 20 kids, that poor teacher who has rotating 6 classes a day, 120 kids, cannot be on top of every child and every way that child learns best, and a parent can. So, yes, we're definitely supporting parental rights.
I think my brain likes to play devil's advocate and take a different position or see things from a different angle in order to like understand how it's justified. And I can look at certifications and I go, man, certifications are important because when you're in a public service scenario where you're in charge of all of these kids that are not yours, all the parents need to know that you're qualified, right? That's important. I agree with that fully. I've even seen one of the bills lately proposes that if a teacher is working with children with autism, that they have a specific certification for that. And I think things like that are important, especially from an accountability standpoint. Sometimes something goes bad, something goes wrong, and it's like, well, why were you even here? What like certifications do you even have to be in this position? And if you add to that concept, which is fine, There's nothing wrong with that concept in and of itself. But if you add to that the accumulative effect of time and the abdication mindset, and you blend those two things together, where more and more we become trusting of a system and we just hand people off to it, well, then you get like an upgrade, a level 2 of that ideology, where it's born a new a new idea, which is no one can teach without certifications, because no one's qualified without certifications. And that's where it starts to become bogus. But you've given it momentum, you've given it time, you've given it this accumulative effect of authority. And parents who have abdicated to a system, we trust it, but we trust the system. So how could anybody else innovate or do it themselves? Parents, you can teach your own kids. That's just a given. If you've done what you needed to do to survive in life, man, it's hard. Man, it's hard. Daily. It's daily hard. And if you have survived in that difficult environment and carved out, you don't have to carve out wild millionaire success and easy living life for you to know how to teach your own kids to succeed in life. If you've done the hard things and you've learned, teach them that. You can do that. It's not, we overcomplicate it. We overcomplicate it because on one hand, some of this makes sense. I want someone in a public servant scenario to be held accountable and to have certifications. But then we bleed up into that mindset where only people with the certifications are at all qualified to teach them. And that's where it becomes untrue. It's no longer a true statement. It's completely false. Absolutely everyone can teach their own kids. And you can teach them what you know. And if you've gotten this far in life, that will get them that far in life. Period. And it's useful, it's helpful to have a community place where we can go, hey, let's get some additional learning, or an online class, or a virtual option, or a co-op, or a public school, or a private school, or a charter school. A lot of these things are helpful, but they're not 100% absolutely necessary to the education of our children. You, the parent, are. And you, the parent, are capable. And I think anytime we're looking at online content creators and they're spouting their ideology or their propaganda, and it's very well done, it's obviously like there's some money behind it, it's so well produced, you have to stop and realize, one, homeschooling everywhere isn't the same. Many of the laws are different. A lot of the laws and policies are different. Two, not all of the popular trends are the same everywhere. Three, not everybody learns the same way, so everybody's going to have some sort of different way. And the further you get down the line, it just gets more complicated, less efficient, and it's more important to customize learning to the child. Teach your child the way you see fit. If you're a parent and your child has autism, you know them best. Period. Period. If you're a child, if you're a parent and you have a boy, you know him best. Period. And if you have a girl, you know her best. Period. It just, you're the parent. And the more you're involved, the more you're the one teaching. There's no better teacher. I don't care if you think you have a certification or not. I don't care if you think you're qualified or not. You got you this far. Get them there too. You can do that. You can do that. And who could ask for more? We could all ask. We could all ask for more. Right, but who can demand more? You're so important, parents. You're so important. So important. You are critical. Family is the cornerstone of society. Period. As you watch the decline of the family unit, you watch the decline of society. As we hand over our kids to government entities or to others or to the greater good, if the greater good of society would just come alongside of us and teach our kids, we'll all be so much better. No. If everyone would take care of the person in front of them and the person to their left and right, everyone in the world would be able to hold hands with someone who would help take care of them. We wouldn't need all of this infrastructure and systematic approach and abdicating our minds and thoughts to everything. Stand on your own. self-governance. We're approaching, hey, look, this is it. We're in 2026 now. This is the 250th anniversary year of the United States of America. These men believed in self-governance. You are capable. You can too. You're more than enough. You're more than enough. And that's what we fight to protect at the Home Education Foundation. It's not about school choice. It's not about right wing or left wing. Don't let anyone brand anything that you're doing as one bent of conservatism or liberalism or anything like that. Just be the parent. Be the parent and fight for your rights, period. Whatever color of side of the aisle you find yourself on, whether it's a blue legislature or a red one, you are the parent. And you speak up and you stand up for your rights and you take care of your kids. Self-governance and accountability. That's it. Brenda.
What was running through my mind, because I have a grandnephew with autism, and I have a third cousin who has Down syndrome. So I've seen kids with disabilities and different learning styles. And if you think, even though the federal law requires that every child has a free and appropriate public education, FAPE is what they call it, because there's so many acronyms in education. But I have seen in the cases of this child and another child who has remained in public school, they're not meeting their needs. And the public education has a very difficult time with one-on-one kids who have learning differences like autistic and kids with Down syndrome. That's why the Gardner Scholarship, which became a permanent scholarship in 2017, I think, there was such great demand for that scholarship that the legislature tried to figure out a way to meet the demand by wrapping it into the numbers in the public school and getting those kids funded from the public education. Because classroom teachers are not prepared. They may take a course or two, but when a child with autism is so frustrated, they can't communicate, and they're screaming and lashing out because of the frustration, and the teacher has 19 other kids in the class. What do you do with that child? You're not educating them. You're making them attend school regularly. And that's what Florida law requires. It does not require that you educate a child. It requires that you send them off to something between the ages of 6 and 16. And so some parents have no choice, but if you do have a choice, that was one of the school choice options that I really fought for 10 years. Not that I made the change. I worked with those people that had an understanding and a desire and the power to do something about it. That we started with an option for parents to choose how best to educate that child with the learning differences. And the Gardner Scholarship was a godsend to so many children and so many parents who have children with those differences. And, will I fight for that? Absolutely, I'll fight for the rights for those kids. It ends up that they pull them out of public school and home educate because they have the option of doing different kinds of therapy. And we fought to increase those therapies to even horse therapy and music therapy and all those things that would benefit a child. And it's made a huge difference in the lives of those children that I'm associated with. And it became a home education issue, but it didn't start out that way because I could see the need. And so we do get into things like that benefit children. And we think it's right for parental rights for those parents to have the right to choose and to give them the money. It's not enough money. There's, you brought up a bill with uh, that's an
Mhm.
IEP bill, determining the matrix that of services that child needs. I would fight for many of those children to have a higher matrix, receiving more money, because even if it's $10,000, it doesn't go far enough to get those children the specialized ABA training that they need. And when you see a child that hasn't had that and they lash out and they punch and they do all those things because they cannot communicate, it's
Mhm.
heart-wrenching to me. So yeah, I think people need to realize that we really
Mhm.
do fight for the rights of all parents, not just those
Mhm.
mainstream parents that uh, have an easier job of educating their own children. But even if they're using that money to get specialized therapies for their kids,
Yeah,
we're
I
all
was
for
thinking
that.
as you were talking about a particular parent. I won't name this parent, but he was telling us, you and I, about the experiences that he had with his daughter and the breakthroughs in communication because there was none. There was that barrier, and it was it was heart wrenching to listen, but it was also hope. It was hopeful to see those breakthrough moments and to know that in situations like those, that those breakthroughs come in the weird, most, you know, couldn't see it coming. It didn't happen according to plan. It comes through horse therapy or some, you name it, kayaks, or all these experiences that suddenly somehow fire and they latch and it grounds and it makes sense and things line up and connect, and it's beautiful and hopeful, and it's a reminder that there's a brilliant mind locked behind that communication barrier. And if you're a parent doing whatever it takes to break through that barrier, it's not going to look like public school. It's not going to look like private school. It's
Nope.
going to look weird and crazy. So when the legislature starts going, well, why are you spending money on this and why are you spending money on that? It's because we're doing anything and everything we can possibly do or think of to break through to our kids' education. And listen, even if you're a parent who doesn't have a child with a severe disability like that, you would still also do anything and everything that you could possibly think of to break through to your kid. I mean, I've heard parents talk about tough moments with teenagers, and they're just as desperate for some keen breakthrough moments. And there are parents who wouldn't stop at anything to see that they could have that breakthrough moment. So, sure, when it comes down to accountability, fiscal accountability in a program, a scholarship program, there are a lot of things that people are going to be looking for: efficiency, what makes sense. Well, these kids don't do that. Why should those kids have to do that? Well, for one reason, we're home education families and we're running experiments on our kids constantly to try to figure out what's most optimal and works best for them. We're not looking for what moves the most amount of children down the middle. We're looking for what moves my kid most optimally, my kid. So it's gonna look different.
Right.
It's a culture difference, though. This is why I was saying it's not about school choice and it's not about left or right or any of these other things. This is a cultural difference. I've taken on my own children as my responsibility, period. And I'm trying as best as I can to optimize their education to give them the best advantage I can give them that I know how to do, period. And for some that's more and for some that's less. It really comes down to the options that you have available and the experiments you can run in educating your own kids. There's zero experiments you get to run if you send them to public school. There are zero changes you get to
Right.
make. If,
And if that method of teaching doesn't
sorry,
fit them
it,
in
it
public
is what it
school,
is.
too
This
bad.
is how
That's
we
what
move
we're
the
doing
middle.
here.
Good luck.
Yeah. You
Yeah.
you can change curriculums 3 times in a year till you find the right
Or you
methodology
can
that
send them
fits
to
your
the
child.
self-help
So
section of Barnes and Noble once they graduate. And then maybe you could start giving them some quality life education and advice. Anyway, listen.
Well, I was looking on my phone because I was trying to remember. I think you and I were thinking of maybe two different people, but the one I was thinking about when we were talking about the parent that was doing things with their child was the child with autism that couldn't speak, and that in doing nonverbal stuff where they can type, the things that were in that child's head were amazing. When we finally found a way to communicate,
he was like, I had no idea
what that
she was thinking. That like I had no way to know that that was what she was thinking this whole time. Yeah, it's sorry I interrupted you. It was
no. That just brings me to how great it would be to have him on to talk about the method that he used. Wouldn't that be great to share that with our audience? Because it was mind-boggling to see when you thought, oh, this child just isn't very bright. But really, the child was very bright. It was just a communication issue. So I'd love to.
I'll reach out to him.
Do that.
I'll reach out to him and see. Yeah.
Good.
Yeah, because I would love that too. Obviously, there'll be things he will or won't want to talk about, and I'll let that be up to his discretion. But yeah, I think it would be a remarkable episode to do that. Yeah, so I'll extend that invitation to him. Well, Brenda, that does exhaust what I had prepared for us to talk about today. I'm so thankful that you continue to be on. I know it's not always easy for you to join us, and you're in the middle of your own firestorm. And I appreciate you. I appreciate you greatly. Everything that you've done for the last 40 years, and you continuing to be around so that I'm not monologuing to an empty camera. I love the history perspective and the heart that you continue to bring to what we do, and I will continue to have you on as often and always as I possibly can. So thank you. Yeah.
Thank you.
Well, with that being said, is there anything else that you would like to say? I always like to give you last word. You wrap it up for us today.
No, I think we covered it.
Fair enough. I'll take us out then. I want to say thank you to the parents of the free state of Florida. You guys are coming in clutch with your support, and we're so thankful to have you, especially the first annual donation match challenge that we launched. We may have a sponsor for the this year's donation match challenge. More to come on that, but thank you nonetheless. Thank you to our top sponsors, Arete, FPEA, Fisher Precious Metals, TBHC Group. And without anything further, welcome to January 20. Whoops, that's the wrong screen. Welcome to January 2026 legislative session beginning. We'll keep you updated. Join our Discord for more information.